You deserve flowers. Eddie? Hey. Sir? Do you want to come meet the family? Sure.
I ask you, please stand for the pledge. Please stand for the pledge. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming out. It's nice to see full faces. It's nice to see smiles. It's just nice to see people that they were created. On that note, I just want to thank everybody also for their patience in the last couple of years. It hasn't been an easy time for children. It hasn't been an easy time for parents. It certainly hasn't been an easy time for school personnel or for school board trustees. We did what we thought was most important in terms of providing continuity of instruction and just providing a safe and healthy place for everyone. So we thank you for your patience. We're most hopeful that we've turned a significant corner, and we look forward to all good things coming down the pike. On that note, tomorrow we have Winter Sports Awards, and Thursday begins the play, the Addams Family, the high school play. So if you're looking for a nice night out for the family, suggest you come to the high school at 7 p.m. Thursday or Friday, or Saturday, for the high school play, the Addams Family. So on that note, I turn it over to the superintendent of schools.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Before we start the regular portion of our meeting tonight, I would invite the middle school administrators and students up, and Mr. Kohler is here from MLK Center. We have a special presentation to start our evening.
We are so excited to be here tonight. We have a special presentation to give to the MLK Center. We are here with our 7th grade students. We have Aaliyah Trichter, Mia Teixeira, Charlie Human, Ian Olivo, and Ryden Nasty. And they are here to share our experience with what we're going to be doing.
How about the idea? Well, we got the idea that every year in math counts, Mr. Petty gives different projects and student projects. Mr. Petty said,
Test.
how we got the idea? Well, we got the idea because every year in math counts, Mr. Petty gives us different projects, and this was one of them. Mr. Petty started off teaching us how to solve the Rubik's Cube, and it blossomed into the idea of the day. Thanks to Mr. Kozak giving us the idea of Martin Luther King Jr., we have a beautiful art piece today.
In math counts, students were taught the 8 algorithms to solve the Rubik's Cube. Although the task was difficult along the way, it was definitely worth it. Mr. Petty took Mr. Kozak's idea of using Martin Luther King Jr.'s portrait as a layout for the Rubik's Cube.
Once we learned how to solve the Rubik's Cube, the wood-tech students in Mr. Cross's class created a wood frame for the cubes to go in. The math count students put the 225 cubes in our tortoise. The math count students had to wear gloves to make sure they didn't smudge the plexiglass.
Dr. Kylie Renzen had a plaque made. And Mr. Harvey 3D printed life support stands.
And the plaque says, it's a quote by Martin Luther King Jr., "The complete education gives one not only power of concentration, but worthy objectives on which to concentrate."
And now, the students of Long Beach Middle School will proudly dedicate this mosaic of Martin Luther King Jr. to the Long Beach MLK Center.
And I understand it's super heavy, so if you guys want to send someone over to get it tomorrow, then. Thank you so much. Thank you to our students and to Mr. Petty and Mr. Kozak and everyone who supported this amazing project. We're very proud.
Thank you, students, so much.
While they're taking the picture, I'll just add, I believe I saw a Facebook video, if I'm not mistaken, of this being created. If you guys have a chance to pull it up or see it. I don't know if it lives on YouTube, but I think it's very cool to watch. And would I also like to add that this is one of the things that makes our Long Beach community so special. Is that our school works together as a community.
And to our students, if you guys want to stay, that's awesome, but if you need to get home to do homework or whatever. We continue tonight, I ask Mr. Peter to come forward and continue with our series of presentations to get ready for this year's budget.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. The board like to take a seat so that we can see this more clearly. So this evening, we're going to continue with our budget presentations. We're going to start off with a recap of our capital projects. We've amended it slightly since our last presentation a couple of weeks ago. Then we're going to go into our secondary program, athletics, and transportation. The revised third option of the 2022-23 capital plan is a slight modification from the original third option that we presented at the last board meeting, which was February 8th. In this revised option, we added $584,000 to the Long Beach High School bathroom reconstruction project so that we can significantly reconstruct the bathrooms on the east end of the second floor and the third floor. Not just a basic renovation, which we had as a placeholder in the third option, down to the second floor and the third floor of the high school, and to take the sinks outside of those bathroom units. So if anybody wanted to wash their hands, they didn't have to go into an actual stall, but the stalls would create privacy for those students. There'd still be adequate passing room when you go through those interior hallways between the two main north and south hallways. The revised option also includes funding for the construction of new bathrooms, which we haven't really talked at length about up until this evening. But one of the ideas we had when we met with the high school team, as well as our architect, was to actually create new series of bathrooms between the cafeteria and the library to make it more convenient for students, whether either in the library or the cafeteria, in order to use the bathroom. So we increased the total cost of option 3 a little bit, but you see here what we're really talking about is this number here. We increased that number a bit just for the reconstruction of the bathroom in the main building, the new bathrooms, and that increased this ever so slightly to about $11.3 million for the option. Now, you will see a resolution on the agenda this evening that asks the board to move forward with this third option so that we can have the proper legal notice that we need to have, because in terms of the funding of part of this project, we're going to be using our capital reserve fund. And in order for us to use our capital reserve fund, we need approval from the community, and we have to have a separate ballot proposition. In order to do that, it needs to have proper legal notice in advance, and that's why we really have to reach consensus on our capital projects for next year this evening. Next, we're going to talk about these following functions: supervision, teaching, library, audiovisual, guidance, and co-curricular, and those are the specific function areas that you see in our budget code having to do with our secondary program. First, we're going to talk about Long Beach Middle School program by object. We've broken out the budget into these 4 object codes you see in the left-hand column. You see the function description, staff compensation, equipment, vendor services, and supplies going down on the left. And you see each of those areas, the dollar difference in terms of the dollar variance and the percent variance for each of these 4 areas in terms of the object of the budget. And you see bottom line here, what we're proposing for next year, 22-23, is a very, very slight increase, 0.18% variance here. So basically, we're looking to do what we want to do in the middle school program by keeping our proposed budget basically at the same level as our current year approved budget. So let's talk a little bit about what's in this middle school instructional program budget. You see a slight increase in staff compensation in the proposed budget because of a few different factors. So we always start with our standard contractual increase based on the movement of staff along the salary schedule. We have a new salary schedule for next year based on the increase that we just settled in our collective bargaining negotiations, and that is offset by staff retirements. We don't have a lot of staff retirements in the middle school projected for next year, but we do have a couple. And one of them is we're actually going to eliminate an elementary teacher position. That's based on enrollment. We see some enrollment decline in the middle school that we're projecting for next year. So we are going to take one FTE out of our program for next year. So that's a real savings. The other savings for a staff retirement is that as staff leave, we're able to replace that staff member with a lower cost, newer staff member. So that's where you see whatever contractual increases for staff are going to be slightly offset by those 2 retirements. We're also asking for a 0.2 FTE, so that's a fraction of a 1.0 full-time teacher for science research. We're really excited about expanding our science research program for next year. You'll see on another slide when we talk about the high school program, we're going to have 0.8 science research teacher at the high school. So then there'll be a 0.2, which will equal a 1.0 for that new science research teacher that we're proposing for next year's budget. You also see an increase of 2 part-time building aides. And that's based on just the need. You know, we always ask our administrators when we meet to talk about the budget, what is it that you need to sustain your program? And they ask for a couple of more building aids for proper supervision of students. And then we have an increase in the stipend for the National Junior Honor Society based on the fact that we're going to increase the frequency of the club from bi-weekly to weekly. There's a decrease in vendor services. So you see here, it's not always an increase. When we can decrease the budget, we do. You see a decrease of about $10,000, and that's because of a reduction in some planned professional development related to the middle use program. A lot of the professional development with the middle use program is cyclical, so there'll be times when it'll increase and then times when it will decrease. So for next year, that professional development should decrease a bit, and we don't just keep that money in the budget where we can. We try to make it accurate to the actual needs for the projected year, so we're going to take that number down a little bit. I'd like to next talk about the high school program. Again, it's organized the same way as the middle school program. The object codes are on the left. We've broken out the whole program into those four: staff compensation, equipment, vendor services. And just as a note, vendor services, anytime we bring in a vendor to deliver services to our students, they're not staff, but somebody like who works for a specific private contractor who comes in, whether it's professional development or something else, some sort of services to students, they'll be in that object code. You see here, there's an increased bottom line of about 3.5%. The driver here is staff compensation, and let's talk about what those projected increases are. Again, similar to what I mentioned with the middle school, we have staff contractual costs going up as staff move along the salary schedule. They can have the opportunity to earn more money. We have a new salary schedule based on a settled contract, and this as well is offset by some staff retirements. We have more staff retirements over in the high school than we do in the middle school, but the bulk of what the difference here is we are asking for some additional programs, which is a good thing because it's really based on increasing engagement for our students. It's based on their interest, the program, and the increase in programs that they want. So we've, solicited the requests in terms of the program for next year, and we see a lot more students who are really interested in getting involved in coursework and classes and programs as opposed to just having a free period. And we'd like to be able to support that interest. So if you take a look, you see a 0.8 FTE that I mentioned before for the science research. That's the other part of that teacher, that program that's going to be the 0.2 in the middle school. 0.7 for technology. There's a huge increase in our technology program, as well as business, a 0.5 increase in business, a 0.4 increase in math, and a 0.2 increase in art. And just as a footnote to the art, that's going to be shifted from the elementary school. So in terms of the overall budget, it's budget neutral, but it is an increase in the high school program. These increases that we're looking for will also be offset by a decrease. So you see here some of our student interest is shifting from family and consumer science over to the technology and the business. So we are looking to decrease there by a 0.3. And then due to some consolidation and efficiency in scheduling, we think that we can decrease by a 0.1 in physical education and health. Again, we also see a slight increase in vendor services, similar to over the middle school. We see an increase in vendor services, unlike in the middle school here, because of some increase in costs for outdoor ceremonies. We really loved having that big tent that we had over in admin for last year, where we were doing it just to have things outside because of COVID, but we felt it was such a great thing to do that we are going to increase that budget line for the outdoor ceremonies as well as the robotics club, and those two things are slightly offset by a reduction in what we need for equipment rental. That was our secondary program in a nutshell. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about athletics, which is a function A2855. So you see here in terms of the difference, the variance between our approved budget, which is the budget for the current year, and our proposed budget, it's about a little under a 4% increase. And why is that? The proposed budget includes the following. I'll take each one of them in order of the athletic program first that impacts coaching stipends. So the first is we'd like to have, we have a new team this spring because we received a grant to have a flag football team, which we're really excited about. And that's grant supported for this year, but we'd like to put that in the budget for next year. So that's next spring for a new varsity flag football team. A shift in field hockey from junior varsity to varsity, and in that we need a new assistant coach. So We're also asking for an addition of a head coach for the junior varsity hockey team, and then the addition of an assistant coach to the middle school gymnastics 7 to 8 team. And when I meet with Mr. Epstein, you know, he takes budgeting and he takes the allocation that we have for athletics very seriously, and he knows when he needs to ask for something additional, as you see here. And that's really based on the need of the students to keep them safe, and also based on the interest we have in the number of students in these teams. The proposed budget also includes funding to recondition our athletic equipment and some additional supervision in order to cover possible state competitions. Our student athletes do very well. Very often they go to state competitions, and we need a little funding there to cover the supervision in case that transpires next year. Included in our ARC grant, not in the proposed budget, but I did want to mention it, is we are exploring a new high school crew team. We're going to engage in a pilot program off-site, and that includes both parental fees and a district coach. So that is an increase to the program, but that will be supported by the ARC grant that comes from the federal government. That was athletics. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about transportation. Transportation is broken into 4 main function areas. There's district transportation, which are our in-house bus drivers. Then there's the garage building, which are our mechanics and the costs associated with doing all of our repair and maintenance. There's contract transportation, the cost for contracting out our busing, and then the transportation for BOCES. So let's take a look at what we have here in terms of the 4 areas. I'm going to take you down to the bottom line for a second, and you see, again, basically flat, 1.32% increase overall for the transportation function. And you see our district transportation going down ever so slightly, garage building going up a bit, and then really there's a shift in terms of the contract transportation. Again, that's a function of the driver shortages that we have out there in contract transportation, that we're able to really do more of the work to BOCES as opposed to having contractors do it. So let's find out a little bit more what's happening next year in transportation. The decrease in the proposed budget of 5510, which are in-house drivers, is due to a few different things. The main thing is the fact that we've been able to consolidate some routes. So there are fewer bus driver slots than in the approved budget for the current year, and that's partly a function of having to consolidate some routes this year because of the driver shortage, because of contract transportation companies turning the work to us, that we've had to do some consolidation. But we are going to have more bus drivers next year than this year in terms of who's actually driving. So we had and some driver slots in the budget for the current year, we couldn't fill them. All year we had some significant vacancies. We are hiring, we have more drivers coming on board. We anticipate having all of the routes filled, all of our standby drivers filled in terms of positions, but still, you compare the 2 years together, you'll see a difference in the number of actual slots. We're also going to be reappointing 4 30-hour bus drivers to 40-hour positions so that the district has a group of 20 40-hour bus drivers that's constant. And this is something that we committed to doing. We've spoken to our transportation department, to our drivers, to make sure they know that they have an opportunity to advance in their career, to move from a 30-hour bus driver position to a 40-hour position, and that we will commit to having 20 of those drivers. And there is an increased cost there, but we feel it's certainly worthwhile in terms of having some stability in the department. There's an increase in the garage building, 5530 in the proposed budget, and that's based on our standard contractual increases because of movement staff on the salary schedule and those new schedules. We have 5 mechanics slots in the department, and that basically just funds the contractual increase. There's a decrease in the contract transportation function, A5540, and that's basically a shift to BOCES, and as I said before, it's because of the shift that we've done in the current year to give BOCES transportation more of the work that we historically have given to our contract transportation. I'm really excited, even though relative to our $145 million budget, it's a small number, but the fact that the district can avail itself of an alternative fuel excise tax refund, because we are a green fleet, we can get money back from the government of about $35,000 to $50,000 annually because there are these government programs available when you use compressed natural gas as opposed to the regular diesel. We're really proud of the fact that most of our fleet the overwhelming majority of our fleet uses this compressed natural gas or CNG fuel. And we've found out about this program where we get the excise tax back. Next year, the district is also going to participate in a green fuel reimbursement program that should yield another $12,000 in revenue. Again, small amount in terms of our overall budget, but the point is that we do everything we can to take advantage of government rebate program, any other types of other income, other revenue, and also the biggest benefit is the fact that there's very low emissions for our community in terms of the buses that are rolling down the road every day. The last part of the presentation for this evening is transfer to capital for transportation. This is a line item at the very end of the budget. You see here it's A9901.911, and it's money that we put in our general fund budget that then we can move to our capital fund, and for this purpose, the purchase of buses. So what we're looking to do is to increase this line item about $100,000, basically so that for next year we can purchase 3 new large CNG school buses and 2 small buses in order to keep replacing vehicles to make sure that after a certain amount of time, we pretty much can keep our vehicles on the road for about 15 years. After that time, they've used up their useful life, then we can replace them. So we always have this continuity of vehicles, new, 15 years, then retiring them. Some districts do it within a smaller period of time, but because we have such wonderful mechanics, we're able to keep the buses on the road. We can actually extend their useful life and get a lot more use out of them. Again, here we're also going to participate in a rebate program to do the New York State environmental organization that deals with buses and emissions, and we plan to take advantage of turning in one of our vintage buses as long as it's earlier than 2009, and we get a $40,000 reduction in the purchase price. This summer, we're going to start planning for electric buses. I know if you followed some of what the governor has said in terms of the zero emissions program for a couple of years from now, so we want to get ready to start thinking about electric buses and be able to participate in the strategic planning that the district's going to be doing next year. And we'd like to get ready for that by thinking about the kind of station we need, the kind of charging facility that we need, and how to start bringing in electric buses into the fleet. So that's a budget presentation for this evening. Thank you for your attention, and now it's time for questions. Any board member want to begin?
I'll start.
Okay, please do.
Thank you, Mr. DeVito. Thank you so much for your thorough presentation. You know, I've always said that, you know, we always can tell districts' priorities with how they spend their money. And you really show that our priorities are our students. So I thank you for that. I just have a couple of questions concerning the capital. Besides the capital projects that you have listed here, I know that East has had some issues with leaks. How much longer do you think we can keep on putting Band-Aids on those leaks?
Well, the work that we did over the February break has shown to be effective in the sense that we replaced some of the steam pipes, and we haven't had any steam leaks over the past couple of weeks. So, which is good because we were having steam leaks almost every day over there. It's an old system, there are old pipes, it's an old building. We're monitoring it, we're repairing any steam leaks that occur as we're aware of them, and the fact that we just took a large section of piping and replaced it with new steam piping is so far showing to be an effective strategy until we can come up with a more comprehensive solution.
Well, thank you. And being on the Capitals Committee, I know that this has been a long work in progress for all of our capital projects. Just to make sure that everybody understands, this is money that we already have.
Yes, that's correct. So part of it is going to be funding through money that we have in something called our unassigned fund balance, and that's money that we can just easily put towards next year's budget. And about $4 million we're going to add, just if the board approves this plan,
We'll add that as a line item to next year's budget, and it'll be transferred to capital for facilities to do some of this work that you'll see up on the screen as soon as the projector can get back on. And then the balance of about $7 million, we're going to take from our capital reserve fund. That's going to have to come into a separate proposition that's on the ballot for May, and it'll have to get approved by the community. But both, whether it's money that we have on hand in our unassigned reserve fund or money we have on hand in our capital reserve fund, it'll have no tax impact at all on the community. Money we have already, we just have to seek permission to spend it.
That's wonderful, thank you. In the middle school instructional program, you stated that there was going to be a reduction of an elementary teacher. Can you please tell us how that would affect the class size, or does it affect class size or programs?
It shouldn't. We are expecting in total the student population in the middle school next year to be significantly lower than this year. So we feel that it could withstand a reduction of a 1.0 teacher, and that teacher just happens to be a teacher who teaches at the 6th grade level. So we don't feel we have to replace that teacher, that we can, because of a lower overall student enrollment that we're anticipating, that it shouldn't have an impact on class size.
And we do have a lower enrollment, that's definite.
Yes. If based on the numbers that we have in our current fifth grade.
Right. Now, I'm very excited to see that we are actually increasing the science research in the middle school and the high school. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What we're planning on doing for our research with the middle school and the high school?
Dr. O'Malley, you want to take that one?
Sure, I'm happy to. We're actually going to be bringing on a dedicated.
Maybe I'll take that one. So we are actually going to bring on a dedicated science research program coordinator. That's not the right title. It will be, a teacher whose job it is to grow our science research program and teach those sections, middle school through high school. We have the great foundations of the science research program, and we've done some wonderful work here, particularly in environmental education. But the board has really set as a goal, earning some top spots in Regeneron and similar science competitions. And if you know anything about the schools that are successful in those programs, they have a person whose job it really is to do that. So it'll be similar to the IB coordinator role, where they'll have some teaching time and some release time to grow our program, to get us into those competitions, to kind of master the formula for what we need to really have some exciting results in our science research department.
Thank you. For our athletics, I really am so happy to see that we're going to have a flag football team. I think our athletics program really reaches out to many of our different athletes. So I was very pleased to see that, we're actually going from a junior varsity for our field hockey to our varsity team. So I want to thank you, Ms. Epstein. Thank you so much for that. In regards to the transportation, what about this electric buses program? Because I was listening to the governor speak just a little bit about it. What do you know about this program, and how many years would you think it would be until we could actually purchase electric buses?
Well, one of the main things that we need is that we need an electric charging station. So there are some infrastructure needs. When we talk about it, and we've talked about it the past couple of years, and when we consult with the bus vendors, the technology wasn't reliable for a school district to really engage in it up until this point. And as you know, what happens in technology is that as they refine it, as people use it on a limited basis, they learn from it, and then they just, improve upon what you can say is a prototype. So we feel, and what I've been hearing from the bus companies is that they're just starting now to have a reliable electric bus that they feel comfortable selling to a school district, and for telling the school district to start investing in a charging station. So it's expensive, but we hope there'll be some government programs. I listed some of the government programs that we participate in now through our green bus fleet with the CNG. So we anticipate there being something for the electric buses as well. I think start small and see how it goes, and then we can scale it up. But I think the timing is right for us to start seriously considering putting some sort of an infrastructure in place so that we can get a few buses. Probably not next year, because I'm recommending that we get the CNG, but perhaps the year after that.
Yeah, I was thinking buses tend to move slow, so maybe 3.
Right, maybe in about 3 years, yeah.
Right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll jump in. I look out and I see that many of you people probably did not come to the budget presentation. So I'll be brief. I'm just going to rifle through my comments, Mr. DeVito. First, I'm a little bit concerned. First of all, I want to thank you, and I think Mr. Epstein, Mr. Nunziata, Mr. Myers, and Ms. Beard for going through the numbers and going through the staff and making tough decisions. 2 part-time building aides in middle school for declining enrollment. I have some concern about that. I applaud the district for moving on the research science. Our best kids in science should be challenged. They should be challenged against the best kids in Nassau and Suffolk and New York State. So I'm grateful for that. I want to ask a question about the high school sound system. We have the play coming up. And I know that has been a perennial area of concern, and unless I missed it, is that still on the drawing board in terms of capital projects?
So what it is that initially we put in for a state grant to fund the field house bathroom at the high school. When those prices came in so high, we applied in order to cover the high school and the middle school sound and light systems. And we're almost at the point where we're going to get that approved. That's why it's not in the budget for next year, because it should be covered for a grant. But in terms of the performances, both the departments know that they continue to rent whatever amplification that they need in terms of sound for lighting.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask yourself or Mr. Epstein in terms of the condition of the athletic fields at the middle school and high school.
Well, I can tell you that as part of our bond project that we hope to talk about next year, there are line items in there to replace the fields in terms of the turf, because they're coming to the end of their useful life.
All right.
Yeah. But in terms of some of the other fields, we recently upgraded them.
Okay, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've specifically asked about electric buses. And given the state of the world politic, I'm more concerned than ever about getting off gas and getting off that resource. So in terms of our bus contracts and our transportation contracts, given what the state of the price of gas is in terms of going up daily, can we say with confidence that those contracts may not be revised or whatever, depending on gas prices?
Well, I doubt that it's going to have a huge impact on us, because it's such a small part of our budget, right? And because we do use the compressed natural gas, it's different than the diesel or the gasoline.
But those that we contract with?
It's a small amount, it's a handful. So I mean, it may go up a bit in terms of the cost that they quote to us. We don't have that yet for next year, but in terms of the overall impact to our budget, it shouldn't be significant.
All right, great, that's good to hear. I just want to point out to everybody, as we say at every meeting in terms of budget, just because we talk about it and just because we discuss it tonight does not mean that it's automatically going to be in the budget in May. We have presentations coming up in special ed and other areas of district concern. And once we hear from everybody, then we pretty much bang our heads in terms of what can the community afford in terms of the tax increase or relative tax increase, and what is necessary, truly necessary this year, and what can be moved hopefully for next year or thereafter. So just because it's on the screen and just because it's over the microphone and up for discussion does not mean it automatically passes tonight. But it will not be determined until about another month. So thank you again, Mr. DeVito.
Thank you.
Ms. Pace?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for raising your concerns. Ann and Doc, you guys covered almost everything and asked all the questions I was going to ask, except for I just wanted to hear a little bit more about the crew team, the high school crew team. So I know you said it's on a grant for next year. It's going to be off-site. So where is it going to be?
Right, so there's a facility in Allen Park that we're going to be using. They rent the boats there. They're going to charge us a fee, so that there will be costs. We will have the cost of a coach, but it is going to be covered by the grant. And if it takes off, if we see that there's interest, then we'll eventually see what we can do to bring it on site. But that again would take a little bit of some infrastructure spending and allocations. And similar to the discussion that we're going to have on a variety of topics through our strategic planning process, you know, if we feel that it's something that we want to go in that direction, we can certainly create a placeholder for that for future planning.
I would love to see the numbers on that, just moving forward once the grant runs out. You know, I'm a huge proponent of using our natural resources, as you all know, and
Right.
we're right on the water, so I think it's a great plan, so I would like to see those moving ahead, so thank you.
Thank you.
I've said for years, if Long Beach can't have a crew team, I don't know what district can.
Here, here, thank you.
Stop at something, other questions. Once again, thanks for the presentation and everyone who's involved with putting them together. We had a few renditions of the capital plan. I know this is our third one. Some things were on it before, were taken off. I just want to reiterate to the public who wasn't part of it, we still have a focus on other aspects that wasn't part of it, right? We still want to do the district-wide air conditioning, still on our plan. It's just because it's not on this year's budget doesn't mean that we're not still focused on doing it. It just has to be about timing. I would also like to see that since we're looking to do some of the turf fields over in the future capital plan, so we can allocate, maybe parlay those projects into other areas of the district to add turf instead of grass. It's better for maintenance or give some more green space and some equitable green space throughout the district. I think some of the other schools that don't have the turf could use a little space for the kids to run around. That's not blacktop or concrete. In regards to the busing, I'm really happy that the transportation department and yourself is able to budget more 40-hour positions within the department, and we're also able to lower the overall costs by really increasing the efficiency. I've been focusing on transportation, we all have, and it's the first time and the last time of the day that our parents have contact with their kids, and consistency in that department is obviously of high importance to everybody. So I'm hopeful that that will bring a little bit more consistency. I know this year our challenges because of staffing from COVID, but I think this is a great move in the right direction. And the last is very nice presentation on athletics. I just want to pretty much say no pressure to Mr. Epstein and all our teams that we have to add more coverage for state events to make sure we get in those state qualifiers and state championships as we have them. So no pressure. That's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mrs. Verona? Mrs. Verona could not be here. She recently lost her sister. Her sister passed away.
Yeah, Dr. Ryan, I have about a, Dr. Ryan,
Yes,
I have about a good, Dr. Ryan.
yes, yes.
Yeah, Dr. Ryan, I have about a 15-second delay on my hearing net.
Would you like us to say it all over again for you?
So anytime you ask me to vote, I vote yes on every. No. But I'm just saying, right now, I'm here. So I'll vote yes on the whole agenda, but we probably won't be able to talk tonight.
Thank you very much. Okay. Student organization announcement. Excuse me, I just wanted a serious note. This is when a sister passed away quite suddenly down in Florida, so she wasn't able to join us. And she died quite suddenly, but she did want to participate in the executive session in the meeting. So we thank her for, under the circumstances, still participating, because we all take budget just so seriously. Okay, student organization announcements? Anybody? No? Questions and comments from the public on tonight's agenda only? Second.
I just want to have a question regarding transportation. I just want to make sure with all the consolidations this year, it was asked for parents to drive their students to school, which many parents are still participating in, especially in the middle school and high school. Will this budget allow for all families who are entitled to busing next year to be able to use this service? Thank you.
Anybody else? Treasurer's report for January 2022, no action necessary. Approval of minutes for executive session, a regular meeting of February 8, 2022, and executive session of February 17, 2022. May I have, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
please.
Hi, Erin Chavis, 17 Vermont Street. I have a question. So we had like 3 proposals. Does that mean like 1, 2, or 3 is going to be chosen? And can we just explain more about this like elementary position that's going to be lost because there's lower enrollment into the middle school?
Sure, so it's actually a middle school position that happens to be 6th grade. 6th grade is considered elementary, it's not.
That's what I thought. I was just making sure. Okay.
And with regard to the capital projects, the proposal that you saw tonight is our final version of the proposal. So this would be the one that we're asking for.
Right, no, so then it's like when it comes down to like make the final decision from the community, it's like choice 1, choice 2, or choice 3. Oh, so then like the whole, like the last one had like reducing class sizes in the middle school, is that?
That's different, that's the budget, and that we won't adopt until April. But tonight, the version 3 is just capital projects.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
If you're anticipating to speak, I just ask you maybe to get a head start.
Come down, please. Okay.
Juliana Carmichael, we managed. So I kind of needed some answers from that about how does it work with the budget. So I know Dr. Romano and we had some conversations a couple of weeks ago. And there's been a lot of concern, especially from the West Elementary parents, about the elimination of a teacher and the reduction of our classes for the 4th going into 5th grade from 3 to 2. And I know a couple of parents have reached out. We're hoping to try to understand a little bit more. There's a lot that are still not very happy about it. And there's a lot of different concerns just about, we've got an ICT classroom. You know, I don't know how much the board has, heard or has anyone reached out to you guys as well. I've had a lot of people reach out to me just from a PTA perspective with social distancing, behavioral issues. I mean, there's so many different nuances that are going on there that a lot of parents are concerned. And our families chose West for a reason. And the elimination of one of the classrooms for this grade, we feel like completely changes the feel and the dynamic. And it has many of our families really upset. And I just know you guys, April, you'll make more of a decision. I just really put some consideration to it because I don't want any of our families more upset. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come and to advocate for us. Anybody else? Okay. May I have a motion? Number 7, number 6, number 7. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second? Any discussion? No discussion in space? Mr. Pinto?
Yes.
Yes.
Conway? I guess Mrs. Verona basically gave a blanket yes for everything, and I vote yes. Okay, presentation to the superintendent.
Well, tonight, if you haven't already figured out, is a special evening, and I would like to, with the permission of the board, ask the board to consider, out of order, certificated personnel item 1L, which is the recommendation for tenure for the following awesome administrators. Amy Buroff, the elementary principal at West. Elizabeth Bolger, the secondary vice principal at the high school. Sarah Kugelman, our elementary assistant principal at West. Patrick Kiley Rendon, the director of instructional technology. Evelyn Gaza, the coordinator of ENL and student internships. Gina Reddick, the program manager for adult education. Lorraine Radice, the director of literacy, pre-K through 12. And Maria Vasquez-Wright, the coordinator of CPSE CSE meetings. Each of these administrators over the past 4 years has more than risen to the occasion, has led faithfully their schools, their departments, their areas, and in my mind are fully deserving of tenure. So I'd ask the board to consider item 1L.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I would just like to say, it's so wonderful sometimes when you get
say yes or no to someone's, not no, but yes to tenure. We are so lucky to have these dedicated individuals work with our children and be part of our community. So I just want to thank you in advance for all of your hard work, your care, your love, and I look forward to seeing your wonderful work with our students for many years to come.
Okay, anybody else?
I just want to congratulate everyone as well. And many of you I have had personal connections with through the years, and I'm so thrilled to be sitting up here and to be able to vote for you tonight. So just thrilled for all of you.
You gotta say something.
I'm up, right?
So you have to say
So
something.
I got on the board about 4 years ago, which is the same time that many of you started. And watching as we've all grown together through this last few years has really been enlightening to me. And watching you lead your buildings and lead your positions has helped for me to be a better board member. And I thank you guys for going along the way with me. And I'm very happy to be able to vote for you tonight.
And I just want to add that you witnessed tonight two of the most serious charges before a Board of Education. One is dealing with budget in terms of such a budget of such significant size that impacts a significant number of students and families. And the second is the awarding of tenure. You know, to give somebody a lifetime appointment is a very serious charge. And when we vote on this momentarily, basically we're saying you're here in Long Beach for as long as you want to be here. And we're making that decision because for the past 3 or 4 years, you've exemplified all the qualities that we want in a Long Beach employee. And all the qualities that we know that you'll still exhibit 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, when you're still working with our students. And we hope then that you still make the significant contributions you're making now, as far as kids and as far as the Long Beach community, that you'll support our children, that you'll support our community for as long as you're here. So I echo the sentiments of my colleagues. I congratulate you. I thank you for your service. And I do look forward to seeing your being here in many years to come. So no further discussion. May I just put it to a vote? Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Congratulations.
I would ask that all of our newly tenured administrators come forward for a presentation of your flowers from the board and a picture, and then everyone will join us for coffee and cake in the lobby for about a 15-minute break.
What you doing?
Good, how are you?
Congratulations.
Congrats. You deserve it. You.
Oh, I worked at this one. I was looking for you to say goodbye.
You sneaking out of here?
Wow. Yeah, but I don't think there's much. I'm just gonna go through these ones.
If we resume the meeting, please, if you plan to stay, please take a seat. And if you plan to exit, if you could exit quietly, we'd be very grateful. Thank you for coming, and once again, congratulations to all the honorees. Thank you.
See you in the morning. Don't be late. Now that you're 10 years, don't be late.
Okay, we're going to go back to the presentation to the superintendent. Once again, if you're leaving, please exit quietly. Please to stay. If you plan to stay, please take the seat. Thank you very much. Okay?
Dr. Ryan, I asked the board to consider the remainder of certificated personnel.
Motion made, may I have a second? All right. Any discussion?
I would just like to thank all of our retirees.
all their years, and I wish them good luck on their retirement.
All right, very good. Okay, that's it for discussion. For a vote, Ms. Pace? Mr. Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
And I'd like to welcome Kate DeBruin, who is here tonight, our new principal at Texas.
Hey, welcome.
I'd ask the board to consider item number 2, non-certificated personnel, but we're going to table item number 2A, item 1.
Okay. Okay, a motion to
Second.
accept as amended. Any discussion? Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
I'd ask the board to consider items 3 through 12.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Items 13, 14, and 15 are first and second reading of the respective policies. No action is necessary on those. At the next board meeting, we'll have the public hearing of the code of conduct. Just an FYI.
Very good.
And then I'd ask the board to consider items 16 through 18.
Motion made. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Pace?
Yep.
Mr. Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Board of Education, any new or old business?
I just have one thing to say. At the last meeting, or the second to last meeting, I talked about a pole that was on corner of Greenway and Needle Boulevard that looked like it was going to fall down. I asked Mr. DeVito if he could take care of it, and he did. So that pole is now down. So thank you very much for that, Mr. DeVito.
You're welcome. Okay, I just want to thank Dr. Natali and anybody and everybody who had anything to do with getting the cake and getting the flowers. You know, the board just shows up and takes credit for everything, but people like you do all the work. So we want to thank you for taking the time to do that for those who are honored with tenure tonight. Thank you. Ms. Dolan, thank you, Ms. Dolan. Okay,
Oh, sorry, I'm just gonna do things.
sure.
Sorry, one is a question following up primarily for Michael regarding the school buses, or Dr. Gallagher, regarding, the red light camera arms from the county or the state. Any progress on that?
Mr. DeVito, you want to just bring us up to date on where we are?
Sure, I participated in I guess it was a virtual meeting with representatives of the town of Hempstead and the vendor that they're using. Believe it or not, the town of Hempstead is further along in the process of securing a vendor and allowing districts to engage that vendor. Each municipality is able to select their preferred vendor that they're going to be using. The county is still finalizing their vendor. I asked the vendor for the town of Hempstead to send us the contract so that our legal counsel can take a look at it. But I think the legislation was passed in the middle of February, and now districts have the opportunity to do that. So we are moving along with it, and if all goes well and we get the contract approved, we'll probably go forward with the vendor through the town.
And one more thing, I know there was a lot of news on it, but I want to congratulate Dania Rodriguez and the rest of the wrestling team and coaches and staff and everyone. I know there was recognition at the city level and covers of Newsday, but a tremendous accomplishment, a great story, and well done, Bud, and congrats to everyone who was involved in that.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Questions or comments from the public? Announcements, Long Beach Classroom Teachers Association? Yes.
I just want to thank you, Mr. DeVito, for the presentation. Thank the board for the continued support to the facilities, help the community as they support the capital improvement projects that were presented on tonight's agenda. And to congratulate everyone who's retiring, and thank you once again for and your team, some amazing administrators. Congratulate them.
Thank you, Sean. Minister, Supervisor, and DPS group?
Good evening. I'd like to thank Mr. Vito and the board for their support for the budget presentation. On behalf of the executive board and the members, I'd like to congratulate all of the people receiving 10 this evening. Thank you for the support and education of students, the schools, and the programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Visa. LVSEA, Parent Teacher Association.
Congratulations to everyone who received tenure tonight. Congratulations also to all the students who participated in Class Olympics on Friday. It was truly a great day and evening. And also congratulations to all the students who participated in all the New York State championships.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Heckman. And I was going to adjourn, but somebody was not tuned in, so please.
Hi, Heather Lacasio, 636 East Park. Well, I think it was wonderful tonight. Congratulations to everybody. Everybody had cake. It was lovely. My question is this. If we can have cake here tonight, how come tomorrow night at the Winter Sports Awards, it says on the flyer, due to COVID restrictions, we are unable to provide dinner, but the teams will continue to meet. Why can we have food here, but not there?
So I think the answer to that is the food for tomorrow night would have had to be in the works several weeks ago.
Lisa?
And I think that the arrangements for that night really take a lot of time. And I think we felt like maybe, to arrange for food in this time, maybe we wouldn't be so smart to get all those orders in. We would have to order things several weeks in advance, even pizza. So we kind of just took the statement on that. for now.
Okay, I just thought it was very interesting. So maybe tomorrow night we can have cake for them. Just thinking out loud, that's all. I just think if
It's
it's
a lot bigger
put it on
crowd
cake,
and
right?
more people to move, but
Okay. I just know when we
we're
just.
trying to do the best we can.
No, I'm not looking. I'm 100% behind you guys. I totally hear you. But when the kids break and they go to the separate classrooms, like when we did it for the fall sports, we brought cookies for our room. So I don't know if every team knows to do that, or if we could just, it's fine, I just was asking the question.
Okay,
I don't know if we're breaking. I think
It
Are
says,
we breaking again?
I really wish you would have told me, but,
I only found out about this 5 minutes ago.
So when you're eating and you're bringing people together, I think that, we kind of move it to the middle. So when you're eating, you bring people together, given the nature that we just came out of it, and you go back together, at least the company bringing close to 6-7 people in that cafeteria together with masks off, eating, people we just left, and we're still in the middle of trying to make sure that nothing.
Oh, no, that's totally.
No,
fine.
I'm just, you asked,
Yeah.
I'm not behind you.
Because I never did this
It's
before.
fine. No,
No, but the question was-
I'm just answering the
Yeah.
question. So that's why now, with all due respect, nobody's supposed to bring cookies at that night because they weren't supposed to have their mask off, but it's fine. We certainly are trying to, it's not fine, I'm just trying to answer the public. So it's fine, and then the other thing is we're trying to keep it manageable in these rooms with all these parents, trying to make it positive and focused on the kids and their awards. The food, we're gonna try to do it at awards, but I understand the fall and the winter missed out. We have the money in the varsity club, we're trying to do something else, possibly for those teams moving forward.
No,
But I
that's
really
fine.
don't want food or cake or anything else
Totally fine.
at tomorrow because of all this COVID sitting around. And again, I'll say, it's accountability, it wasn't their decision, I didn't take it to my decision as I felt I could bring it. So
No, that's fine. I just thought that because this was my first year doing it, because when my son was in 9th grade, he played JV, but he didn't play varsity 10th with COVID. I just thought you ate, so when you did the breakout, I thought that's like when you had pizza. I didn't know it was a
So
big
it's
thing.
it's all one big.
Yeah, that was new to me, so.
So,
All right.
absolutely.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Mr. Casio. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
No, they did not.
Nice to see you.